วัสดีครับทุกท่านครับผมนพดลนะครับในนาม TCDC ขอต้อนรับทุกท่านนะครับงานทอล์กนะครับของ Street Photography นะครับขอริชาร์ด บรามกับเดวิด กิฟสันนะครับวันนี้เราได้รับเกียรติจากคุณโอนะครับคุณปิยทัศน์ เหมทัศน์ซึ่งเป็นช่างภาพอาชีพอยู่ด้วยมาเป็นคนที่คอยประสานงานระหว่างทั้งสองสปีกเกอร์นะครับถ้าใครมีคำถามอะไรถ้าไม่สะดวกที่จะถามเป็นภาษาอังกฤษโดยตรงก็ถามมาทางนี้ได้คุณโอจะคอยรีแคปสิ่งที่เดวิดกับริชาร์ดพูดเป็นระยะนะครับผมอยากให้เราทำเวิร์กช็อปมา3 วันเนี่ยที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยสิ่งหนึ่งที่กระตุ้นให้ทุกคนช่วยกันก็คือช่วยกันถามคำถามเยอะๆนะครับทั้งสองท่านเตรียมมาตอบคำถามนะครับไม่ต้องเกรงใจนะครับอยากถามตอนไหนก็ได้นะครับก็เดี๋ยวขอเริ่มเลยแล้วกันนะครับจะได้เริ่มตรงเวลาเดี๋ยวฝากเวทีให้คุณโอเลยครับ
ขอบคุณครับก็ขอบคุณ TCDC นะฮะที่ให้เกียรติผมมาเป็นดำเนินงานวันนี้นะครับก็ยินดีต้อนรับนะฮะคุณเดวิดกับคุณริชาร์ดนะฮะ welcome and thank you for being with us and before we start can I ask you a question yes. How do you define street photography
Any kind of photography that's taken outside of your front door in a public space. It's not set up, it's real. It's about ordinary people going about their everyday lives. And it has, as the word street suggests, something a little edgy, dark, humorous, odd, but real. Not set up.
ครับผมก็ถามคำถามแรกก่อนเลยนะฮะเริ่มต้นด้วยถามว่าอะไรคือ street photography นะฮะและก็ได้คำตอบมาว่าเป็นแนวงานภาพถ่ายที่ถ่ายข้างนอกบ้านบนถนนเป็นธรรมชาติไม่มีการเซตอัพนะฮะ so let's start with you David you prepare us selections of slideshow
Yes I'm showing this picture of myself wearing the same shirt I think because it's quite a significant photograph because I did a workshop in Athens a couple of years ago and the group took me to this street in Athens and for me this was a significant spot because it's where Cartier-Bresson took one of his most famous photographs. I was hugely influenced by Cartier-Bresson and Elliot Erwitt. I'm going to quote Richard Bram here actually about where did it all begin. It began in the library.My starting point with photography was in a library looking at photographic books.
เดวิดเขาพูดว่าจุดเริ่มต้นของเดวิดนะฮะคือเป็นเขาได้รับแรงบันดาลใจมาจากห้องสมุดนะฮะเป็นที่แรกที่เขาได้เริ่มศึกษางานภาพถ่ายแล้วก็อันนี้เป็นโค้ดของคุณริชาร์ดอีกทีนึงนะฮะว่าเริ่มที่ไหนแล้วก็สำหรับคุณเดวิดนี่ก็เริ่มในห้องสมุดแล้วก็ภาพนี้เนี่ยที่เขาโชว์บนสไลด์โชว์เป็นโลเคชันที่สำคัญสำหรับเขาเพราะว่าเป็นตำแหน่งที่ช่างภาพที่เขานับถือคุณคาเทียเบรซองที่เคยถ่ายภาพที่ในมุมนี้เอาไว้ครับ
Okay I began photography in taking black and white photographs and it goes back nearly 30 years and this is one of my early photographs. I'm a very English photographer. This is a very English scene. And the bonus, the thing about this photograph is the arms on the right. This is some bowls players. This is my kind of photograph.
เดวิดเริ่มต้นถ่ายภาพเมื่อ30 ปีที่แล้วนะครับแล้วก็ภาพนี้เป็นภาพในยุคแรกๆของเขาแล้วภาพนี้เนี่ยจุดที่เด่นในภาพก็คือขวามือที่มีคนที่ยืนคาดเอวอยู่นะฮะแล้วก็มีแขนที่ดูประหลาดนะฮะ Can you explain about the arms? What's going on here?
Explain about the arms. The arms are very large.
I mean, is it like some kind of
How strange, very strange.
Yeah.
Basically, street photography is wandering around looking for the luck and finding odd moments like this. It's a little gift. I will constantly come back to the idea of street photography being gifts given to you, and this is a little gift, little bonuses, little things, little bits of magic, and the arms, and many other things probably, the composition, the smile of the woman on the left, everything sometimes comes together and you get lucky. Without the woman. The woman on the left holds the picture together, yes. The whole photograph is about the woman on the left, really. Because there's something going on. I will add that one of my favourite types of photographs are photographs that suggest a story. And there's maybe a story here. Something has happened. This woman on the left is a little bit smug. She's played a very good shot, or she's cheating, or something might be happening. She looks a little devious. This is my interpretation. So something's going on. The woman on the left, look at that smile.
เดวิดบอกว่ามีหลายอย่างเกิดขึ้นในภาพนี้นะฮะแล้วเขาก็ไม่มีคำอธิบายที่เกี่ยวกับแขนที่ดูประหลาดแต่ว่าอันนี้เป็นส่วนตัวที่ผมเห็นก่อนอย่างแรกนะฮะแล้วก็เขาพูดต่อว่าที่จุดที่เป็นโฟกัสสำหรับตัวเขาเนี่ยในภาพนี้ก็คือผู้หญิงที่อยู่ทางด้านซ้ายมือที่มีลักษณะมีท่าทางที่มีเหมือนทำอะไรอยู่แต่เขาก็ไม่สามารถบอกได้เด่นชัดนะฮะแล้วเขาก็พูดต่อถึงอีกว่างานภาพถ่ายแนวนี้เนี่ยจะมีเอกลักษณ์พิเศษตรงที่มันจะกระตุ้นคำถามและก็ความสงสัยของเราครับ
Yes, you could say a lot about the photograph, the composition, the numbers, but sometimes just a nice photograph to look at, hopefully. I got lucky.
เขาบอกว่าเขาโชคดีกับภาพนี้
But this is a continual theme. I'll go through a few before I stop, actually, just to give you an idea of my early style. This is another story photograph. What is happening here? I mean, nobody knows. The woman is hugging the child. And why? What's going on? This is the sort of photograph that I like. This is a story about a penguin and a zookeeper. It's also perhaps a fashion model walking down the catwalk, maybe. My photographs are very carefully composed. They're very tidy, and I also take a lot of my photographs are also vertical. I'm quite unusual, I think, as a photographer. I would say about 60% of my photographs are vertical. Do you want to?
เดวิดเขามีประเด็นที่น่าสนใจเขาพูดถึงภาพของเขาเนี่ย 60% เป็นภาพที่ถ่ายบนแนวตั้งนะฮะแล้วก็ภาพก่อนภาพนี้เนี่ยที่มีรูปผู้หญิงกอดเด็กผู้ชายอยู่เขาบอกว่าเป็นลักษณะภาพที่เขาชอบเป็นพิเศษเพราะว่าไม่รู้แน่ชัดว่าเกิดอะไรขึ้นนะฮะแล้วก็รูปนี้ก็เป็นอีกตัวอย่างหนึ่งนะครับซึ่งในฐานะคนดูเนี่ยเราไม่มีทางรู้ว่าที่ไหนเมื่อไหร่และเกิดอะไรขึ้นนะฮะก็เป็นบริบทต่างๆเหล่านี้เนี่ยที่เขาชอบเกี่ยวกับภาพแล้วก็รูปถัดมาเนี่ยที่เป็นรูปเพนกวินเขาก็พูดถึงเรื่องcomposition ของเขานะฮะว่าเขาทดลองแล้วก็เล่นกับวิธีการเฟรมภาพของเขาตลอดฮะ
This is typical of my style. Lots of space. The photograph is all about space. When I first began taking photographs, one of my early themes was children and the elderly. And there's many things going on here, but it's about texture, shape, and lots of space. This one. Now, I give some of my photographs. I mean, do you want to? Okay, go on.
เดวิดชอบทดลองกับสเปซนะฮะกับพื้นที่เงากับแสง shadow กับ highlight นะฮะแล้วก็เขาเริ่มต้นจากการถ่ายภาพเด็กแล้วก็ภาพคนแก่คนชราฮะ
This one is called Three Legs. because the girl has 3 legs, perhaps.
ภาพนี้ชื่อว่า3ขาฮะเพราะว่าเขามองว่าผู้หญิงเด็กคนนี้มี3ขา
This one is called heaven because it looks as if it could be taken in heaven. It's taken through a dirty window.
ภาพนี้เขาเรียกว่าสวรรค์นะฮะเขาบอกว่าเหมือนในสวรรค์ในนิยามของเขาครับ
This one is also called 3 legs.
อีกภาพหนึ่งที่เรียกว่า3ขาครับ
This one does not have a title actually because I can't think of one. Some of my photographs have titles, some don't. But this is also about space and the idea that the window is an arrow looking down on the couple. So the couple are very small in the photograph.
ครับภาพนี้เป็นหนึ่งในภาพของเดวิดที่ไม่มีชื่อนะฮะแล้วก็เขาอธิบายว่าเกี่ยวกับบรรยากาศแล้วก็หน้าต่างที่ข้างใต้หน้าต่างที่ดูเหมือนเป็นลูกศรชี้มาที่คู่ที่กำลังจูบปากกันอยู่ครับ
And that's just a dog. This is many of my photographs are about juxtaposition with backgrounds and foregrounds, and the starting point of the photograph is the poster of the 2 young women with the 2 old women in the foreground. I do quite a lot of this juxtaposition, finding a background and then hoping that other people might complete the picture.
คุณเดวิดชอบเล่นกับมุมสะท้อนนะฮะกับสิ่งที่เกิดขึ้นบนโฟกัสกับแบ็กกราวด์ที่มันล้อกันฮะ
So this is carefully composed, whereas this one is an easy shot, but I mean, sometimes photographs can be hard photographs to take and easy photographs to take, and this is an easy photograph to take, but it's quite a pleasing thing to come across, this headscarf of the Post Office Tower in London.
เขาอธิบายว่าบางภาพเนี่ยถ่ายยากบางภาพก็ถ่ายง่ายนะฮะ
I think I was on a bus myself and I just saw it. I didn't have to wait. It was there. Some photographs are weighted, some you just take. This is just taken, it's just grabbed. There's a man on or off the bus. On, he was on. Just. This is more complex, this photograph. This has a starting point, which is the little bird playground thing, and waiting for a person or a child, preferably, to run into the picture. Again, this photograph is open to interpretation. It's a bit cryptic, it's a bit strange, it's odd. You can make what you want of it, really.
เขาอธิบายว่าภาพลักษณะนี้เป็นแล้วแต่คนมองฮะว่าเราจะอ่านมันยังไง
Odd. This is a weighted photograph. I saw the lines on a wall and waited for the right person to come into the photograph. And this woman walked into the picture wearing a striped top, and she saw me, and that's why she's laughing. So she's the right person to come into the picture.
เขาบอกว่าภาพนี้เนี่ยเป็นภาพที่เขาตั้งใจรอให้ผู้หญิงคนนี้เดินเข้ามาในกรอบรูปนะฮะ Is it because of what she's wearing also?
Oh yes, yeah. It's absolutely yes. The striped top is the only top that is usable. If she was wearing just a black top, she wouldn't be in the picture.
So there were people before her, right?
Yes. I mean, it's all about casting.
เขาบอกว่าเกี่ยวกับเหมือนกับการคัดเลือกคาแรคเตอร์หรือคนให้เข้ามาอยู่ในรูปเพื่อให้เข้ากับสิ่งที่เป็นอยู่ในภาพ
There might be, but they wouldn't be very good because they're not wearing the right top.
And I can sense some sort of chemistry actually now that you mentioned
well,
about
it's
that.
just chemistry. Yeah, well, the only chemistry is that she saw me taking the photograph and waited for me to take the photograph on the side of the scene. And then I said, you know, and that's why she's laughing. I do not normally have any interaction with the people I photograph, but in this instance, there's a little bit of, she's just laughing because she's seen the joke that she's wearing. I think she's probably make quite a good photographer.
ปกติเดวิดเขาจะถ่ายรูปโดยที่ไม่ให้คนเห็นนะฮะเขาถ่ายใครก็ตามเขาจะพยายามไม่ให้คนนั้นเห็นแต่ภาพนี้เนี่ยพอดีผู้หญิงเขาเห็นคุณเดวิดกำลังจะถ่ายเขาก็เลยมียิ้มให้อะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะฮะ
This is shadow. This is taken. Well, the story is there was an S&M protest in London, but it's all about the shadow. One of the themes of my photographs is shadows, as this one is as well.
เป็น2ตัวอย่างภาพที่เกี่ยวกับการทดลองเล่นกับเงาฮะ
This is about a dinosaur. It's again a photograph with a beginning. The beginning is the background. It is taken in Brighton, and there was a big fiberglass dinosaur on the end of Brighton Pier, and I thought this would make the beginnings of a good photograph. And there is another version.
เริ่มภาพนี้เนี่ยถ่ายที่ไบรตันนะฮะบนเพียร์ที่ไบรตันแล้วก็เขาบอกว่าเป็นภาพที่เริ่มต้นด้วยตัวไดโนเสาร์นะฮะหมายความว่าเป็นจุดนำตาที่เราเห็นก่อนนะฮะแล้วก็อันนี้เป็นภาพเวอร์ชันถัดมาครับ
Again, I will use the same word again, casting. The right people walking into the photograph, and these two old women are the right people for the photograph.
ก็กลับมาที่การเลือกคนแล้วก็คาแรคเตอร์ในการที่จะนำเข้ามาอยู่ในภาพนะฮะ What about the other picture? How come you choose to?
Because this one is not so good.
Okay.
It's a good question.
If I may interrupt, we talked about this in the workshop, and one of the things that we talk about between ourselves and also iN-PUBLiC is knowing which is the good picture and which one is not so good. It's very hard, but the reason this one you look at what's going on in the picture. You look at the dinosaur, you see the women, you see the amusing juxtaposition, and it's very clean. Whereas here, I mean, you have this, which is in the way. It takes away from the picture. The fact that she's looking back at us, this expression pulls you back out of the photograph. And we want you to stay in the photograph. And I think it's sort of instinctual and an emotional response, perhaps. But I think that's why, I'm sure that's what, whether consciously or unconsciously, that's why David favors this picture. David's pictures are very clean, and this is much cleaner than that one. And it's just more composed and settled. It's settled within itself. It's centered, not physically centered, but emotionally centered, whereas this one is not.
คุณริชาร์ดก็ได้เสริมว่าภาพนี้ที่มีผู้หญิงหันกลับมามองกล้องนะฮะก็ดูไม่เรียบร้อยเท่ากับอีกภาพหนึ่งเพราะว่ามีเหมือนกับโครงสร้างทางด้านขวามือที่มากวนตานะฮะ And how come you picked this one to show as an example?
Yes, I wanted to show two pictures because I think it's interesting to show. But for me, it's obvious.
Yes.
I mean, this is what it's all about. You know, you should know which is better. I mean, this one is far better than that one.
คุณเดวิดก็เอาตัวอย่างมาให้ดูนะฮะคือเป็น2เวอร์ชันอันหนึ่งที่เขาชอบแล้วก็ใช้แล้วก็มีตัวอย่างอันนี้ซึ่งก็น่าสนใจแต่ว่าเป็นอันที่เขาไม่เลือกฮะ
When you go out taking photographs, it's a bit like hitting the target, or it's like somebody hitting you over the head with a hammer, because you just know it. So this one hit me over the head. It's bang. That's it. This is the better one.
Well, no, you don't know this one, David.
Oh, sorry. I know it's a very good question, but for me it's very obvious that this is far better than this one. This is okay, whereas this one is the complete deal.
เขาอธิบายว่าเวลาได้รูปดีๆมันเหมือนกับโดนค้อนตีหัวอะไรเงี้ยฮะหรือว่ายิงเป้าแล้วเข้าเป้าอะฮะ
A lot of these photographs would be part of a sequence, yes. There would probably be about another 4 or 5 of these. Yes, don't be deceived. There's more than... I don't just take single images. They're nearly all part of a sequence, and I will show a sequence later on, yeah. Whereas this would not require a sequence. It's just needs one. And it's a poster on the wall of the London Underground. It could be a man trapped behind a train, which is what makes it interesting, I think. I like photographs that cause you to question what you're seeing, and you have to do a double take to check that it's not a man trapped behind the train, and that's when it becomes a more interesting picture.
เป็นภาพที่ถ่ายออกมาแล้วดูเหมือนกับคนอยู่ในหน้าต่างนะฮะแต่จริงๆแล้วเป็นภาพที่ถ่ายมาจากโปสเตอร์อีกทีหนึ่งในรถไฟใต้ดินที่อังกฤษนะฮะ
A lot of my photographs have titles, as I said before. This one is called Split Man. It's a very strange photograph. It's a tree, yes. I see strange things.
Meaning strange things come to you?
Yes. I'm the strange thing that goes to them. It's my view of I see strange things around me. I sort of go looking for them. What I do is I go looking for my photographs, if that makes sense. And this is my sort of photograph, my odd view of the world.
เขาบอกว่าเขามักจะเห็นสิ่งที่แปลกประหลาดนะฮะเขาก็เลยนำเสนอสิ่งนี้ฮะ
This is all about shoes. This is all about books and a very odd-looking woman, who I followed. Sometimes when you wander around, you suddenly see something and you have to get the photograph. And this was taken in a small alleyway in London. And she was just looking at the second-hand books. And I actually went into the bookshop, desperately trying to get the photograph. And I'm actually in the bookshop, and she's outside.
คุณเดวิดเนี่ยเห็นผู้หญิงแก่คนนี้แล้วเขาก็สนใจในคาแรคเตอร์มากก็เลยตามนะฮะตามผู้หญิงเข้าไปในร้านหนังสือแล้วก็ถ่ายออกมาในขณะที่เขาดูหนังสืออยู่ฮะ
Yes. Something. I mean, I just saw the potential that she was such an unusual looking woman in the way she was wearing her glasses on her head. I mean, she looked like some sort of monster. Yes, I did expect something. Oh yeah. I'm like a leopard in the Serengeti. I'm in the long grass, and then I see my prey on the horizon, and then that's. This is 3 hats and 3 lines. This is a strange photograph. It's just a teddy bear, but it could be that the teddy bear is trapped and cannot get out. It's trying to escape. This is a slightly different photograph. It's taken in London, one of the bridges going over the River Thames, and it's looking down onto the river, and a boat's just gone past, so all the waves are there, and you've got a seagull flying across. But it looks as if it could be an albatross flying across the Andes. It could be many things. This is a man on a bike. This is taken at the Queen Mother's funeral in London in 2002. And it's a mystery how he stands on the bike. This is why it's such an unusual thing to see. It's mysterious. How can he stand on the bike? It doesn't make sense. You could stare at this photograph for 4 days and you would still not understand how he stands on the bike.
เป็นภาพที่มีแต่ความปริศนานะฮะที่อธิบายไม่ได้แล้วก็ว่าทำไมเขาถึงยืนบนจักรยานได้นะ
And it's very English.
What is very English?
What is very English? That's a good question. Well, it's very sort of smart. What is English? God. He looks English, doesn't he? He's not from Thailand.
No, absolutely not.
Yes.
I thought he looks like Andy Warhol actually for a
It
minute.
It does look like Andy Warhol. But it's not. He's English. He's very smart. What is English? I mean, it's a very English bike, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Look at the basket. There's no head on this man, but the photograph is not really about the head. It's about the Rubik's Cube and the tie. And he wore the tie to go with the Rubik's Cube, I imagine.
เป็นภาพที่ไม่จำเป็นต้องมีศีรษะคนนะฮะไม่จำเป็นต้องเห็นหน้าเพราะว่าเป็นภาพที่เกี่ยวกับก้อนรูบิกคิวบ์ที่อยู่ในมือฮะแล้วเขาก็บอกว่าผู้ชายคนนี้เนี่ยใส่เน็กไทอันนี้เพื่อให้เข้าชุดกับรูบิกคิวบ์ฮะ
This is a man with a kitchen sink on wheels. I wander around and sometimes I see strange things. A man came out of a house with this kitchen sink on wheels. And I wanted him to walk past an interesting background. And he did, because this wall looks as if it's a sort of a mathematical equation and it sort of goes with the kitchen sink. I think. A lot of my pictures have backgrounds and foregrounds, as I say. No, I don't think so. I mean, this is a bigger, wider question, but the same thing would apply for Richard and all of us, that we have no interaction with the people we photograph. That's the whole idea, that they do not see us. This is incredibly important. These photographs are not set up, they're real, and they're just observed moments of people. And I would say about 90% of the time, the people we photograph are not aware of being photographed.
And yet we are not hiding. If you try to hide, everybody sees you.
You're
If
hiding
you are-
behind me.
Yeah, well, I'm making noise though. But if you stand right there and say inside yourself, I'm invisible, you give out the vibe and people don't pay any attention to you.
This is a
Don't
big
wear
thing.
a red hat, don't wear red clothes, or red glasses. But that's the thing. It's just, you can be perfectly open, but quiet within yourself, and people will not pay attention to you.
So how do you become a street photographer? You have to be half invisible. And that's half a joke, but it's also half serious. Yes. Most of the time, standard lens, yeah. Yeah. It probably helps, yes. Yes. But I think it's body language and attitude as well. Yeah. What's happening here? Why is the man walking around with a head on a stick? I mean, I don't know the answer. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, the reasons, I don't know. This is, I mean, the previous one is a sort of a funny, grabbed moment, whereas this is a bit more mysterious. It's background and foreground again. I was fascinated by the mannequins in the shop window, which are covered in plastic. And I think the woman in the foreground makes the picture complete. It's a different kind of photograph. This is, I should state that I have quite a fascination for arrows, and this is one of my arrow shots. And the arrows are doing a tango, to my mind, because it's a poster for a tango film or something. And this is another man with arrows. A lot of my photographs are starting points, and the starting point is the arrows doing a circle. And I'm hoping, thinking that something might happen, and the right sort of person will walk into the picture. And he did. He's sort of carrying another arrow.
A starting point for you, is it somewhere that a viewer go directly to first?
I look around, and if I often get above, and I will look down, and I'm looking down here, and I'm seeing this wonderful circle of arrows, and for me that's the starting point, and it has potential. This is what I look for photographs, but I also look for spots to take photographs, which is a separate sort of thing.
Yes.
So I'm looking for vantage points.
Starting point หรือว่าจุดเริ่มต้นที่เดวิดเขาพูดถึงก็คือ background นะฮะที่มีเครื่องในถ้ารูปนี้ก็คือลูกศร3อันที่ดูเป็นวงกลมนะฮะแล้วเขาก็เป็นจุดเริ่มต้นของภาพนี้แล้วเขาก็รอให้คนเข้ามาในเฟรมแล้วเขาก็ถ่ายรูปนี้ออกมา
This is a surprise shot, I think you could describe, that I took it because it was all about feet and the man playing the bagpipes, but the little bonus is the child walking behind the woman on the right, and everything looks normal until you count the number of legs.
ก็เป็นรูปที่เขาบอกว่าน่าเซอร์ไพรส์หรือน่าแปลกใจนะฮะเพราะว่าดูครั้งแรกเนี่ยเห็นแค่2คนแต่ว่าดูดีๆก็จะมีขาแถมมาอีกคู่หนึ่งข้างหลังครับ
And it comes back to this point about the luck. This is a woman on a spring. This is a short project that I did some years ago called Subtitles for Life, where the words in the photograph are the subtitle for the photograph. So in this one, it says all stock greatly reduced in a shop window. And of course, there is no stock in the shop window. So therefore, it is the correct subtitle.
เป็นซีรีส์งานของคุณเดวิดที่ใช้กับที่เล่นกับคำเขียนในภาพเป็นคำอธิบายตัวภาพเอง
This has taken, well, say no more. This is taken at Gay Pride in London, and the other entrance to the building said in, and they are obviously out. So that is the subtitle. This is called Out. This one's called Jack in the Box. This one's called Why. But I never set photographs up, but now and again, well, this is the only time I've ever half set a photograph up. I found this Y signs around London for an art installation, and I took one down and just threw it onto the ground and waited to see what would happen. And most people just ignored it until the road sweeper came along and put the sign in his cart. But the photograph is I like to think it's a very philosophical photograph in that he is considering the bigger question why as he puts the why sign into his cart. Because it's quite an unusual thing to see on the street is just the words why. So it's odd. Why? Why is there a why sign there?
And where did you find it?
Why did I find it?
Where?
Where? Well, it was in London. There was just I don't know, something instinctive. I thought it would be interesting to see what would happen. And maybe I should do more of that. Just throw signs down and see who responds.
ปกติก็เดวิดเขาจะไม่เซตภาพเขานะฮะเขาจะไม่เซตฉากหรือว่าสร้างสถานการณ์ขึ้นมายกเว้นภาพนี้นี่เขาเจอป้ายที่เขียนว่า Y แล้วเขาก็เอามาโยนทิ้งไว้บนทางเดินแล้วเขาก็ดูปฏิกิริยาของคนที่เดินผ่านไปผ่านมาแล้วเขาก็เก็บภาพไปในตัวแล้วก็เลือกรูปนี้มาเป็นภาพที่เขาชอบที่สุดนะฮะเพราะว่าคนที่เก็บขยะเนี่ยเหมือนกับอ่านคำนี้แล้วก็เหมือนกับอินในรูปแบบของเขา
How good is your English? This one, I was waiting for somebody to commit a nuisance, to do something wrong, but nothing happened. But I still took the photograph because I thought it's such a lovely sign. It goes back about 100 years. A sign or a warning for people not to misbehave, and it's just a lovely sign. Commit no nuisance, but what kind of nuisance? Just don't do anything wrong. Somebody suggested that this couple have been sitting there for 60 years. Arrows again. This is taken at Ascot in the horse racing Ladies' Day. And it's just very English again, but it's about arrows and composition. But it's also a subtitle, Additional Ladies and Gentlemen. Because they're not additional ladies and gentlemen toilets, it's just you can get extra ladies and gentlemen for your picture if you want them. This is a more subtle photograph in that I love the idea that you can lose your sanity on a very busy railway station. It's a gift, I couldn't believe it when I saw this. This is a great irony, this photograph. It doesn't really require any commentary. If you can read the English, it's just amazing. And this is taken outside of a pub, and the comment is about no Sky television, but it could be more serious. This is a... This is one of the better examples of when it really worked. This is taken in Brighton as well. The sign last few days in my head required an old person, obviously, the right casting. And I got very lucky that an old man was walking very slowly down the road on a walking stick. And I just got him in the middle of the picture. So again, it's perfect casting. This idea constantly about casting the people, the right person in the photograph to make the photograph complete.
But this is the second day that you went back.
No, this is taken in one day. I went to Brighton for the day, and I got there and saw the sign, and nothing happened. And as I was about to go home, I went back one more time just to see if anything would happen. And this time, this man came along. Well, I go back a bit. I mean, it depends where it is, but I'm not very patient. If something doesn't happen quickly, I just give up. But I went back one more time just to try. Now, colour. I'm still the same photographer, but it's in colour. And it's a pigeon that have been pecking too much on a plastic cup and got the plastic cup stuck on its head. It's weird. Very weird. It's very odd. A lot of street photography involves pigeons.
How do you choose between color and black and white?
I thought you were going to say, how do I choose which pigeon?
No.
This is the big question. I'm fairly traditional in that, like a lot of photographers, I started in black and white, and there is a kind of inevitable progression to colour. But there are other factors for me. I got bored with black and white, to be quite honest. And then when digital came along, for me, in about 2004, I just went to colour. I got bored taking black and white, and I needed a new challenge. And it was a challenge. I found going to colour very, very difficult. Now I don't worry about it so much. But it's a separate discipline, taking colour photographs. It's not easy. You have to make up your mind.
เดวิดอธิบายว่าเขาเริ่มต้นถ่ายรูปด้วยภาพขาวดำนะฮะแล้วเขาก็ถึงจุดหนึ่งที่เขาเริ่มรู้สึกว่าเขาเบื่อภาพขาวดำแล้วเขาก็เลยเริ่มทดลองกับงานภาพสีซึ่งเขาบอกว่าก็ใช้วินัยแล้วก็มีความยากที่ตักกัน
People have said to me that this photograph would look better in black and white, and they're probably right. But I'm still using the same technique, if you like, of finding backgrounds, and the background is the cloud on the wooden door. And I imagined a little girl with a red umbrella walking under the cloud, but it didn't happen, so I had to make do with this man who's not really very colourful, but he still looks as if he's under the cloud. It's my sense of humour, seeing funny things, and this photograph has become quite well known, and I've never completely happy with it, I think, and I've repeated it again. I sort of didn't want. I copy myself basically, and when I was in Stockholm recently, I saw this wall with clouds, and I thought, more clouds. I think this one is actually better. We're saying earlier about you should know instantly. It's obvious which is better. What do people think? Can we have a vote? I'm really curious.
Yeah.
You think this one is better?
ช่วยเลือกหน่อยครับ
Which for this one? Not this one. But a few hands go up. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm bored with the first one. I think that's the trouble. This one's got more colour in it.
Yeah, but the stones are distracting. The cleanliness of the other one, I think, is what makes it. Although you may be bored with it.
Yeah, I am bored with it. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the problem. Yeah. This is a man in London. I mean, it's very unusual for somebody to be looking at the camera, to be looking at me when I take the photograph, but he just saw me, and I quickly took the photograph. It was raining slightly, and it's just an unusual thing to do, is to walk around with a coat on top of your head. Yes, I do. I repeat myself all the time. The same. Photographers often take the same photograph. It's like songwriters; they write the same song. You can recognise one of their songs, and this is what I do. I see things like this. This is also typical of my style. Very minimal, lots of space, and just this lovely green hose pipe. It was in Warsaw, and this girl came into the picture wearing this red dress, and she just stepped over the green pipe at just the right moment. And it's an odd photograph, but I like it. This is another double take photograph, where you have to figure out how many people in the photograph It's not quite what it seems when you look at it a bit longer. And this is very English. It's the royal wedding. And for some reason there's an exclamation mark with an arrow. It's not quite there, this photograph, I don't think. It's not, I mean, I would like to show photographs here that everyone is an absolute winner. You know, the best you can do. And this is not quite there, but it's interesting. You can see what I'm trying to do. This is just a grab shot of something that I saw. Another odd moment. I sometimes get very close to people when I take photographs. I have to instinctively decide whether they're going to look up, and it's quite a skill, or maybe it's just hope. But I think this woman was so engrossed in what she was doing, I just thought that she would not look up, and she didn't. It was the sheep bag that saw me. This is odd. I was in a coffee shop, and there was a woman on my right reading a book, and I just saw her reflection, and I call this one Cyclop. This is another strange photograph. I took this photograph because I was trying to photograph the alphabet, and I thought this would be a letter A. And then it was pointed out to me that no, this is not really a very good A, but it's an interesting photograph because it looks as if the woman has just given birth. And she's texting her friend to say, and the little kid is sort of keeping guard on the left. You have to have a slightly warped sense of humour to sort of see things like this, but you know, it could be what's happened. And this is just an exercise, if you like, in shapes, puddles, reflections. There was a big puddle in London, and I just loved all these figures going past. And the idea is to try to get all the figures lined up, so there's lots of balance, so the composition is just as it sort of should be.
รูปนี้เดวิดเขามีคอมเมนต์ที่น่าสนใจตรงที่เขาบอกว่าภาพนี้เนี่ยเหมือนเป็นแบบฝึกหัดสำหรับเขาฮะที่เขาเล่นรอจังหวะให้คนมาโผล่ในงานเงาสะท้อนให้ดูพอดี
And another puddle shot. And this is, I mean, sometimes street photography is about staying still in one spot, almost like a stakeout. And you find a street corner or something interesting and you stay there to see what will happen. And again, it's a puddle, and everybody was having to step over the puddle. So you just take lots and lots of photographs to see what will happen.
เขาอธิบายว่าบางครั้งเขาจะปักหลักอยู่ในตำแหน่งใดตำแหน่งหนึ่งเป็นเวลานานนะฮะเพื่อจะรอว่าเกิดอะไรขึ้นกับในมุมนั้นในภาพนี้ก็คือบ่อน้ำที่อยู่บนถนนที่คนคอยกระโดดข้ามฮะ
How do you deal with a situation like this? If you have a camera up, generally try to avoid the camera. So they'll try to get out of the way, like they might step out of your line of sight with the camera. So in shots like this, with this guy this close, you have a camera?
Yeah.
Or you just brought it up, bring it up?
I have this attitude that people are not concerned with what I'm doing, or they don't understand exactly where I'm pointing the camera. My camera is pointing down. It comes back to this idea of being half invisible. People are not bothered. People are busy. No, they don't really understand what I'm doing. They're busy. It's lunchtime. They want to get home, back to work, or I really have this. You know, they're not bothered, unless they're Orthodox Jews. Then they are bothered. Yes, I'm there. I just take lots of photographs, yeah. I'm just standing there, kind of in the way, but, you know, slightly back. And people are not bothered. You see, I believe that they're not bothered. If I believed that they were bothered or concerned, it would stop me from taking the photographs. This is the attitude that I have. It doesn't matter. I mean, in any city, there's lots of people wandering around with cameras.
You are self-conscious about having a camera. We are not. That's the difference. I don't even think about the fact that I have 1 or 2 cameras hanging off of me and I look like some crazy person. I don't even think about it. But as David said, it's busy. And if you're in the way, people will just go around you. And that's what you want. Sometimes people will stop because they're trying to be polite. Say, oh, he's taking a picture, I don't want to walk in front of him. And they do. But most of the time, they won't. I just don't worry about it. That's the thing. People are too concerned about these little things. Don't even think about it. Just take pictures. That's kind of the attitude. And again, if you just stand there, obvious, people will ignore you. If you're going like this, well, everybody's going to look at you.
It's a bit like walking past a dog. The dog will smell the fear.
มันมีประเด็นที่น่าสนใจมากนะฮะตรงที่เขาบอกว่าเวลาเขาถ่ายภาพบนถนนเนี่ยเขาคิดว่าคนที่เขาถ่ายเนี่ยไม่สนใจเขาบอกว่าเมื่อไหร่ที่เขาคิดว่าพวกคนที่เขาถ่ายเนี่ยnotice หรือว่าสนใจเขาเมื่อไหร่เนี่ยเขาก็จะไม่ได้ภาพเหมือนเขาจะต้องเหมือน overcome หรือว่าไม่สนใจว่าคนอื่นจะคิดยังไงหรือว่าสนใจเขาขนาดไหน
This man on the right saw me. He was looking at me and was on his mobile phone. Didn't really understand what was going on. Not realizing he was standing next to a Star Wars trooper. For me, it's a gift. He looks like a Star Wars trooper.
And I'll use this picture to people who want to be street photographers. Too many people take the picture of the Star Wars trooper and think they have a photograph. They do not. They have a man in a funny costume. It's the other guy that makes this a photograph.
I mean, he looks mean. He looks as if he could, shoot you.
He's about to tell the Star Wars trooper to shoot you, David. It's a good
That's
thing
right.
you left.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get a reaction. This guy, the expression on his face, he sort of can't believe what's happening. But he doesn't understand the importance. He doesn't understand the importance of his role in the picture. He doesn't understand what's happening. And this is just something you look at, and you look again, and it's half a woman. It's half a mannequin. That's why I took the photograph, because you have to keep doing a double check. It's another gift. It's such an unusual, beautiful pair of legs, but no top half of the body. This is an unusual photograph. It's actually one of my favourites, I think, because of the lovely colours, and it's quite mysterious. The woman in the red dress in the painting somehow seems to be connected to the woman in the blue dress. There's a very unusual sort of connection between the two women.
เป็นอีกภาพที่แปลกนะฮะที่เดวิดเขาบอกว่าเขาชอบเป็นพิเศษเพราะว่าเขารู้สึกว่ารูปผู้หญิงที่อยู่ในที่เป็นรูปวาดเนี่ยมีคอนเนคชันอะไรบางอย่างกับผู้หญิงที่ยืนอยู่ข้างหลังรูปครับ
Some photographs they talk very loudly, they scream at you as being great photographs. This is a very quiet photograph, and in some ways I prefer quiet photographs. This is a little project that I sort of started and might continue, but it's very difficult to do. Sometimes when people carry things, their hands disappear. As you can see in this one and this one. But you don't see this very often, so it's very difficult to do this.
เป็นโปรเจกต์ที่เดวิดกำลังทดลองอยู่นะฮะที่เกี่ยวกับคนเวลาถือของแล้วไม่เห็นมือฮะ
And this is in a little museum in London to do with children. And this lovely painting on the right of a child from the 1880s. And then this group of schoolgirls running around the museum. And somehow there is a connection between the girl in the blue dress with the old painting. They just seem to go together. And what is happening here? It's actually a street performer in Covent Garden. So it's not quite such a clever photograph as it might appear. But it does look very strange. And this is strange as well, because of the small detail of the man's incredibly long finger. I've never seen a man with such a long finger. And it might be because he has to keep the finger there to keep the briefcase closed. Otherwise, all the money will fall out. I followed this man. Sometimes I follow people because, you know, I had to follow the finger. The finger was pointing at me to follow.
เขาตามผู้ชายคนเมื่อกี้เพราะว่านิ้วนะฮะ
And I do photograph. Somebody once said that I photograph people as objects, and it's probably true. This man's got no head. This man, for some reason, is hanging on to some railings, and I think he's drunk. I'm not quite sure, but it's just an interesting thing to come across because his trousers are halfway up his legs and his tie is all over the place. This is my fascination with shapes. There were tyre marks on the ground that had left this, to me, this beautiful kind of mark on the ground, you know, and it's got a little bit of colour in it. So it's all about texture and shapes. And I just waited, wanting just a little extra ingredient to sort of make the picture. And the man just walked across, so it just gives it a little bit extra. This is a quiet photograph, but typical of the kind of photographs that I take. And this is, I called this one, when you're in love, everything looks interesting. Even a sort of a derelict building, a construction site of some sort. And the couple are just, you know, fascinated to look what's happening. And it's probably not much. But as I say, when you're in love, everything looks interesting. This is in Singapore, where they have a lot of arrows. That's why I like Singapore. There was a wedding going on at the National Museum, and I saw the bride get out of the car, and I waited by the arrow, thinking that she might somehow, I don't know, I didn't know what I wanted, but the arrow and the bride sort of go together. The only problem is the beacons in the background goes straight into her head, so it's not quite perfect. And I would not remove it by Photoshop. That's another question.
ก็เป็นประเด็นที่น่าสนใจนะฮะเขาบอกว่าภาพนี้เนี่ยก็เป็นรูปที่ทดลองกับลูกศรที่เขามักจะมีอยู่ในภาพของเขานะฮะแล้วก็เขารอผู้หญิงในชุดแต่งงานเดินผ่านมาแล้วก็เป็นภาพที่เขาบอกว่าเขาชอบประมาณหนึ่งแต่ว่าเขาไม่ชอบโคนสีแดงข้างหลังแล้วก็เขาบอกว่าเขาไม่รีทัชโดย Photoshop ออกเป็นอันขาดWhy do you don't normally use Photoshop?
No, what I'm saying is I would not remove the cone because it would make I mean, I'm very aware of that cone going into her head, and ideally the cone should not be there. But I wouldn't erase the cone to improve the picture because that would be bad. I would feel bad, and it would be cheating. You wouldn't remove the cone.
No,
would you?
it would be dishonest.
Yeah,
it would be
dishonest. That's the right word. We are very honest and very pure in what we do. We don't cheat. Really, this is very important.
เขาคิดว่าการที่เราmanipulate หรือว่า retouch สิ่งบางอย่างออกจากภาพเนี่ยเป็นการขี้โกงฮะ
If it was an advertisement for a commercial wedding gown, okay, you take it out. But that's business. But for pure photography, thou shalt not remove things in Photoshop, ever.
And within iN-PUBLiC, if it was found out that I'd removed the cone, people would not be happy. Niels Jorgensen, one of the members of iN-PUBLiC, would probably kill me. Wouldn't he? He would.
He'd at least slap you around a bit.
Yeah. Cropping? Oh, don't get me on cropping. No, I have this idea of when I do workshops that I have a butcher's cleaver on the table. That if anybody crops slightly, they just lose a finger. But if they crop half the picture, they lose a leg. Cropping is bad. Cropping is lazy. It's a very fundamental point about street photography. You should not crop. You should crop the photograph in the camera when you take it.
The best zoom lens are your feet. Move in, move back.
ก็อีกประเด็นหนึ่งที่น่าสนใจนะฮะเขาบอกว่าการครอปรูปหรือว่าการเฉือนรูปเนี่ยก็เป็นสิ่งที่เขาไม่ทำกันนะฮะแล้วก็วิชาร์ดก็บอกว่าเลนส์ซูมที่ดีที่สุดก็คือขาเรานี่เองนะฮะเราต้องเดินเข้าเดินออกฮะ
And it's just a strange thing that you see. The man wearing sunglasses on the back of his head. Amazing. And he goes with the building. That's why I took the photograph. The hand. And, well, this is another one of those photographs where you have to do a double take. If you keep looking, you can't figure it out. Exactly, it sort of doesn't make sense. Is it one arm? It's whose arm belongs to who? And street photography, night photography. Doing street photography, for me, it does not have to be in focus, which is maybe a surprise for some people. I do a lot of abstract stuff. I will actually shake the camera. I will have it on a slow shutter speed so the photograph is blurred. So this is a little bit different. It doesn't quite fit with all the other photographs, but that's good.
เขาคิดว่าไม่จำเป็นสำหรับภาพที่จะต้องชัดเสมอไปนะฮะบางทีเขาถ่ายรูปใช้ชัตเตอร์สปีดที่นานหรือว่าเขาตั้งใจเขย่ากล้องเพื่อให้เกิดเอฟเฟกต์เคลื่อนไหวขึ้นมา
And back to shadows. And the shadows look like a wise old man stroking his chin. And he's got a hat on. And the girl is just leaning against the wall for some reason. This is taken in Calcutta. And I call this one Slumdog. And it's shadows again. And it's really just shadows and the dog. But the wall there looks like a cornfield because of the light. Maybe. I might be in there. I could be. I was standing a little away from it. Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure where I am, to be honest.
You know what is the writing on the wall?
The writing?
The red marks.
No, it's just no. It's not red marks. It's just
What it is?
it's
Because they chew tobacco and it's spit, so it's red. Spit.
is it?
Yes. In India, you will see red marks like this.
What the bottom of the wall?
Yeah, on the bottom that you said it looks like a field.
Yeah, I just thought that was like rain stains from water.
Tobacco.
Yeah,
Then they spit.
right. I thought I
It's on the wall near the holes.
Yeah.
Or on the side of the walls.
yeah.
Like that.
There's always something to learn about my photographs. I had no idea that. Yeah. Yeah, right. I just no idea. This is in Darjeeling, and it's taken with a slightly long lens, and it's a children's playground. But it's just this wonderful riot of blue colour. That's why I took it. And you've got a dog going through the middle, but you can't really see him. And back in London, and a man comes out of a shop with several mattresses on his head, and I quickly follow him, hoping that he might walk past the right background, and he did. And the shop picture, the woman looks as if she's sitting on the mattresses. So it's the two things coming together. And this is background, foreground. Obviously, the shopper on the shopper mural requires a shopper, and she is the right person. Like the man in Last Few Days, this is the right kind of woman for the mural. Okay, I'm going to finish off here with a few contact sheets. Somebody asked, did you just take one picture? And mostly it's not. Sometimes it's 2, 3, and sometimes it's 10. Who knows? And this is an example of what you would call the SkyTrain here, looking down from one of the stations in Kuala Lumpur. And we're back to arrows, basically. But basically, I'm touring Asia, doing arrows. This is Arrows of Asia, will be published as a book. He said. Anyway, I was fascinated by the arrows and back to red cones again. Red cones and arrows. And this one sort of works because the woman is wearing yellow. So it's not bad. This one woman is wearing red, which goes with the cones. You can see what I'm trying to do, what interests me. This woman doesn't really work at all, although her hands clasped together echo the two arrows. So that one's interesting. But the best one was this woman suddenly came out of the shop, or whatever it was, carrying 2 yellow bags, and she's wearing a red top. What luck. Perfect. I can't make it up. And that's what it's all about. You can't make it up, because it's not made up. And that's the one. And then she continued. But you can see of the sequence, this is the one that lasts. That's the one, that's the winner. The one that hit me over the head.
ก็เป็นตัวอย่างภาพของเดวิดที่ทดลองเล่นกับบรรยากาศลูกศรแล้วก็โคนสีแดงนะฮะโดยการใช้คนเข้ามาเสริมก็จะเห็นตั้งแต่ภาพแรกว่ามีผู้หญิงในชุดเหลืองซึ่งเป็นเหลืองที่คล้ายกันกับลูกศรนะฮะแล้วก็ภาพต่อมาที่มี can we go back to a few more please กับรูปนี้ที่ผ้าสีแดงที่คล้ายกับโคนสีแดงนะฮะแล้วก็ can we go ahead can we go forward แล้วก็สุดท้ายแล้วเนี่ยเขาก็รูปนี้เนี่ยที่เขาถ่ายมาเขาคิดว่าไม่ค่อยเท่าไหร่สำหรับเขาแต่ว่าในมือผู้หญิงก็มีสิ่งที่สีคล้ายคลึงกับตัวโคนเหมือนกันแต่เขาไม่ค่อยชอบเท่าไหร่ฮะแล้วก็เดวิดเลือกรูปนี้ครับ I actually like the one.
Don't say that. What? This
actually,
one? No.
The one after this.
The one after? No,
Yeah,
I think that this one is better because the angle of the bags. This one is not. It's too. This one's after the event. Just this. This is the one. Surely.
Yeah, because you have 2 bags. The next one you only have 1 bag.
Right.
Yeah. And this one's rubbish. It's just a mess. That's how it is sometimes. Closer. Yeah, I think I had I think an 18 to 85 lens or something, and I did go a little bit in. It looks too zoomed in slightly. It's rubbish. It's nowhere near as good as the natural one there. Yeah.
yeah
I mean, this last one is horrible. You know, I should delete it. But it's nice to show how things sort of come about.
Are you from a window?
No, I'm standing on the like the station ticket office, looking down. And I'm going to finish off. This is another one. I mean, this one, you can see it's interesting because of the man's legs, which echo the two arrows, but it's still not as good as the woman with the two yellow bags. Now I'm going to finish off with a photograph that I took in 2008. This is an example. It's called Audition because it was an audition of some sort in London for some children doing an audition for Annie, the musical, I think. And this shows how a photograph can sometimes come together. And these little girls got off a coach outside the theatre and they went round the back of the theatre and I followed them and they were queuing up outside the stage door at the back of the theatre. And I was across the street from them looking at this wonderful sort of gaggle of girls wearing these red dresses and then took a whole series of shots. It's very difficult. One of the reasons I take photographs with not many people in them is it's because it's easier to orchestrate. When you've got 15 girls or something, it's very difficult to get them all doing the right thing. It's impossible. But gradually the whole scene sort of came together. A lot of them it's a mess. And gradually, and they're not really bothered about me. Still a mess. Getting better. And that's the one where everything fitted. Absolutely fitted. I was incredibly lucky. I've been doing street photography for about 30 years, and I took this on Saturday, the 8th of February 2008. And I went home knowing I'd probably taken the best photograph I've ever taken. And I very much doubt that I will get a better photograph than that. Everything, all those years of wandering around, everything happened, and I thank the one-eyed god of photography for giving me that photograph. So it's about looking for the luck, and sometimes you get the luck. Any questions?
This is the last shot.
That's the last shot. Yeah, it doesn't get better than that. Yeah, I don't think.
You will take more?
I took a few more. I did actually, and they were different sorts of shots. I knew. I mean, there was nothing else to do. So that I changed taking. I took different kinds of photographs. I did a few vertical. I mean, sometimes you take a series of shots and you sort of run out of steam. And you've done that bit, and then you maybe try something else. But as far as that is concerned, I'd done my best with that. And then they moved. They broke up, so I couldn't repeat the possibility. Yeah. Go on.
Take photographs
In a pub.
or pictures in London or whatever.
Do I take pictures in pubs? No, I just drink beer in pubs. I think. Yeah, it's much better.
What do you think about Instagram?
Instagram. I think they look great, but I think they disguise very ordinary photographs. They make them look interesting just because they give them a sort of a texture. But they look good. But I would ask the person. I don't know. It's difficult. I quite enjoy looking at them.
I think sometimes I'd say, which Instagram?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah.
Which picture? Because, like with all pictures, most of them are not very good, and here and there's going to be something special. With, I don't care if you're using a plastic camera, phone, a 35mm film, digital, whatever. They're all cameras. You can call it whatever you want. It's a camera. But most pictures, like for all of us and anyone who uses pictures, most of them are not going to be very good. But some of them are going to be very good.
It's a gimmick, I think. I mean, that's my worry. But I shouldn't put people off using them. I personally think they're a bit of a gimmick. But they're quite a creative process. They are interesting. Yeah. So you're allowed to use them. That's...
ก็มี
Yeah. They're all original. They're not cropped. They're not set up. Absolutely. Yeah. Color. Sometimes I will turn up the contrast slightly. I will fiddle with the color a little bit, but not the saturation. Sometimes I turn up the saturation a little bit, but not much. As long as it looks normal. I mean, this is normal, I think. I would not do anything that looked ridiculous.
ก็เดวิดก็มีการปรับสีปรับน้ำหนักของภาพเขาเป็นปกตินะฮะเพื่อให้ภาพเขาดูปกติ แล้วก็มีคำถามจากข้างหน้าเกี่ยวกับความรู้สึกเกี่ยวกับ Instagram นะฮะแล้วก็ทั้งคู่ก็บอกว่าก็แล้วแต่ภาพนะฮะสรุปง่ายๆว่าแล้วแต่ภาพบางทีก็มีรูปที่น่าสนใจบางทีก็เฉยๆแต่เขาคิดว่าเดวิดเนี่ยคอมเมนต์เกี่ยวกับ Instagram ว่ามันเหมือนกับเป็นลูกเล่นอะไรประมาณนั้นคือทำให้ภาพธรรมดาดูน่าสนใจขึ้นแล้วก็เขาก็ไม่ได้แอนตี้อะไรแล้วก็กลับมาถึงภาพชุดนี้ที่เขาเอามาให้ดูพัฒนาการนะฮะที่เป็นภาพของเด็กผู้หญิงที่กำลังจะเข้าไปเหมือนกับคาสงานนะฮะเป็นละครเวทีแล้วก็เขาเอามาให้ดูภาพตั้งแต่ภาพต้นถึงภาพอันเนี้ยที่มีพัฒนาการในการเฟรมรูปแล้วก็จับจังหวะของเด็กให้อยู่ให้ลงตัวให้สมดุลฮะ
Daylight. Yes, mostly. I'm not really interested in taking pictures at night. It's something I've not really done because it's too dark.
No flash
No flash. No, never.
ไม่ใช้แฟลชนะฮะแล้วก็
Yeah, I don't use flash. No, all natural light. Yeah.
แสงธรรมชาติเท่านั้นครับ
Yes. I've taken a few. But I've got in my camera in my bag. Not really. I've got maybe one or two, but I sort of sit on them. I keep them hidden. I'm very meticulous. Yes, I sort of don't like to expose them. I have to sit with them for a while to see if they work. I'm still here for another week, so I've still got more time.
What's your how do you process your pictures? Do you look at them immediately after you take them, select the good ones, or you wait? How long do you generally wait before you?
Well, as they're digital, you can look at them that evening. I think it's quite nice to sit on them for a while and just a few weeks or something. I mean, I know some photographers they sit on their work for 6 months or something, or it's various factors. As long as you get it, that's the main thing.
Which do you prefer to shoot film or digital?
Well,
What's your
it's
feeling on
not
that?
so much preferring. I'm just got pushed into doing digital like everybody else for work. And I find digital easier as well, and it's cheap. It doesn't cost anything to take digital, whereas taking film costs, mount up. I mean, I can go and take the equivalent of 10 films in digital, and it doesn't cost me anything. Yet 10 films, negative film, will cost money. I think it's just, digital comes along. I do think about going back to using film again, but I don't. I mean, they're still photographs. I'm not really concerned whether they're digital or film.
ก็การถ่ายภาพด้วยฟิล์มหรือว่าดิจิตอลก็ไม่ได้ใช่ ประเด็นใหญ่สำหรับเดวิดนะฮะเพราะว่าเขาก็ใช้กล้องดิจิตอลเป็นปกติแล้วเขาก็คิดว่ามันก็ใช้งานได้ดีแล้วก็ไม่มีค่าใช้จ่ายสูงฮะ
So you say you look for work to be pushed to shoot digital more than negative.
I mean, it's very difficult to get work if you're using a film camera because they want to have the images almost immediately, and if you've got to process the film, it's just not practical.
Can you tell me what is they commission you the job? Or?
Well, you want to know what kind of work I do?
Yeah.
Well, I do bits and pieces. I mean, it's a very difficult question. I mean, I'm a photographer. I mean, we're talking about street photography here. I'm labelled a street photographer. Sometimes I'm commissioned by design agencies to take photographs in this natural fly-on-the-wall style. I mean, I do get some work doing that, doing things like annual reports for banks, property developers. It doesn't happen a lot, but I do get those kind of jobs where they want sort of natural photographs.
And even during those shots, you don't set up everything?
I don't work in advertising, but some of the iN-PUBLiC photographers work for advertising agencies. They love this kind of thing, but they want it set up. Yes, and they will have a storyboard and they will set it up, as long as it's done in a very natural style. But that's a different thing. It's set up, yes. Yeah.
So that's something you would like.
Yes, that's basically it. But I wouldn't show, if you had work from an advertising agency, you wouldn't say, I took this. It would look somehow different, I think.
So you don't do both. You only do street photography.
I do photography.
You have to do something else. You will not make a living or money from street photography.
He's basically asking the question that a lot of people ask: how the hell do you make any money out of? I mean, some people will say you cannot make any money out of street photography. Within iN-PUBLiC, there are at least 3 or 4 members who earn a lot of money from this kind of photography, and there are also several members that don't earn much at all. So it's sort of a bit of each. Some photographers do very well. I mean, I do the odd wedding. Another thing I do is I supply picture libraries. That's my other kind of sideline, supplying picture libraries. Yeah. And also you have to realise that most photographers, when they're asked that question, they often lie and say, oh yes, I do this, I do that. Most of the time they're doing nothing. That's why they're doing street photography, because they have so much time, because they haven't got a job.
ก็พูดถึงเรื่องทำงานอื่นนะครับว่าเดวิดไม่ได้ถ่ายสิ่งที่เขารักอย่างเดียวก็คืองานสตรีทโฟโต้นะฮะเขาก็รับจ้างถ่ายภาพแนวอื่นด้วยอย่างเช่นงานแต่งงานหรือว่างานให้ลูกค้าต่างๆครับ
Yes, it's a very good question.
So how do people know you? You do expositions?
I don't know. People just how do people get known? I don't know. The internet. If you're known for a particular kind of photography, people search out certain kinds of photography. I don't know. It's a very random thing. I mean, I don't have an agent. I mean, some of the photographers within iN-PUBLiC, as I say, are very successful. Nick Turpin, for instance, and Matt Stewart get quite a lot of work doing design work and advertising agencies, and they both have agents, and they're very, very good at it. So it's the agent that pushes their work.
So in your case, doing exhibitions that we send you can help?
Exhibitions, it doesn't do any harm. I mean, I do sell some of my photographs, my black and white photographs. So that's something that's another small aspect of what I do.
And what's the criteria? Do you sell them in editions? Or?
No, I don't. I'm not very good at doing that sort of thing. I just sell them a print or something. I mean, some people are much more organised and they will have a limited edition and all that stuff. I've never got into that. I'm just not very interested in doing that.
And the sizes can be
It can be
varied?
whatever. I get emails from people sometimes saying, I'd love to buy some of your photographs, and then I go back and say, what are you interested in, what size? And then I sort of try and gauge how rich they are. and then say, you know, well, that's going to cost a lot. I do give prints all my, you know, I don't get a lot of money from them. I've had my work exhibited with David Bailey and Elliot Erwitt some years ago, and their photographs were selling for £6,000 each, and mine was selling for £200. And I sold several, but you know, it's a question of reputation and stuff. So that's a very difficult question. Yeah, I don't really have the answer to that. It's who knows? I mean, some photographs sell for a ridiculous amount of money.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a stupid world we live in.
Well,
Really?
you seems to do, you know, things more instinctively.
Yes, there's no game plan. It's just, I mean, people, I think, said to me, how do you become a professional street photographer? I'm not a professional. I'm an amateur at heart. It's my only job, but I don't consider myself a professional. I'm just a photographer, and I get called a street photographer. And it's strange the way things sort of, you know, happen. Yeah.
เดวิดเขาคิดว่าเขาไม่ใช่มืออาชีพนะฮะทางด้านนี้เขาไม่ได้คิดว่าตัวเองเป็นช่างภาพมืออาชีพแล้วก็ผมคอมเมนต์กับเขาไปว่าผมคิดว่าเขาเป็นคนที่ทำงานโดยใช้สัญชาตญาณเป็นหลักนะฮะในการถ่ายงานไปถึงการทำธุรกิจทางด้านถ่ายรูปนะฮะก็
Any other questions?
Okay, so thank you
Well, I'll
very
hand
much,
you over
David.
now to Mr. Bram.
Change it. Everyone stand up, stretch. I have a lot of photographs from many different periods in my life. I've been all sorts of photographers. I began photography, very early. I was clearly doomed from the age of 2. This is in 1954. And I'm 2.5 with the first camera, and I still have one like it on a shelf in my office. But it took me another 30 years before I actually decided to be a photographer, because I had done many other things. And what I ended up doing was big public events. I decided out of the blue in 1984 to be a photographer because I had gotten fired or laid off of all my real jobs and I couldn't do anything else. But through a little bit of starvation, which focuses your energy, a lot of time in the library, because the library is where you learn about photography, that and doing it. And some lucky breaks, I began to make a living doing commercial public relations photography, and then eventually big public events like the Kentucky Derby. I was their official photographer for 12 years, living in Louisville, Kentucky. So you get used to taking, you know, happy, pretty pictures, really warm moments, but this is sort of a proto street photograph because it's a spontaneous moment on the backside of the track with this man on his horse, and I could see him just playing with it. I shot color, lots of it, because that's what my clients wanted, and had no problem with that. At the same time, I would shoot black and white if that's what my clients wanted. I could make my own black and white photographs, but I couldn't make my own black and white prints. That all had to be done with the labs. I was very poor, so therefore, I mostly worked in black and white because I could afford it. But while you're taking the pretty pictures, occasionally you'll see something that maybe is not quite so pretty or is a little odd. And I got used, unlike David, I kind of enjoy getting into big crowds and messy situations because that was part of how I made my living, and I got used to it pretty early. And I began to look for these uncomfortable little moments. When everyone is all dressed up to have a really good time, they got on the funny costume and it's all going to be laughs, and the weather is bitter cold, it's raining, it's snowing, and the wind is blowing. And they're not happy. But it's not a hostile picture. I'm not a hostile photographer generally. Because if you look at the woman, she's really sweet. She loves him. She's sorry it hasn't worked out. It's a little bit of, I told you so, Harry. But there we are. If you need, just butt in, just stop me.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
summarize on that very quickly.
Yeah.
ริชาร์ดเขาเริ่มถ่ายรูปมาตั้งแต่เด็กนะฮะต้องสมัยเขา2 ขวบก็ถือกล้องแล้วนะฮะแล้วเขาก็เริ่มต้นอาชีพเขากลางปี 80 นะฮะโดยการถ่ายงานอีเวนต์ต่างๆนะฮะ
And this is 1989. This is one of the first photographs that I thought of as one of my early street photos, even though it's not technically on the street, but it's outside, it's in public. Or if you're photographing a sports event, this is the sponsor shot, you know, the tight sports moment. But then they had this award presentation and it just looks a little off somehow. People are bored. Ronald McDonald is not having a good time. And I live for moments like that. But I take the pictures, the client does not wish to see these, but I do.
ครับริชาร์ดก็จะต่างกับเดวิดตรงที่เขาถนัดที่จะถ่ายในกลุ่มคนมากกว่า
Or the ballet, you take the pretty picture, and then there's the cocktail party reception afterwards with a lot of bored rich people. And that also can make some uncomfortable pictures, and I happen to like that. And so while I was in Kentucky, this all developed, and my vision, personal vision, began to develop. And then in 1997, I moved to London. And then this is what really took over the main part of my life. Do we have sound? Wait a minute. We don't have sound. Now this happens to be New York, but this is what it's about. This is working in a big crowd. Funny costumes. Oh, there's a background. Do we have something here? Oh, look, she's taking her picture and making a funny face. There's a weird background, but I'm not sure. I don't know. You can hear my shutter going as I'm trying. A kid. Something's going to happen. I know something's going to happen. And a gesture. And the curiosity. It's not a great picture, but it's a good picture. Working through a huge crowd. Oh, what's with these people? And that one I decided was the best shot I took the whole day. I didn't photograph the parade at all, but I was really interested in the crowd. Now, New York in 1988. I've always gone in and out of New York City. What this whole presentation is what I call nylon, New York, London, because I go back and forth between those two cities now and have for many, many years. But this is also about a gesture, which is one of the things I talked a lot about in the workshop, and attitude, and things that are a little critical, and this is my take on society. I don't like this man. He cannot be bothered to pay any attention to the man who is shining his shoes. He's so far above him in his head. And there's something about the pose, the posture, the attitude, and there's no interaction. And I just really dislike that. And so I wanted to show him as kind of an obnoxious guy. And this is me putting things into the picture. But it's still there. I didn't set it up. I didn't arrange it. It's also an interesting timepiece because there's a bunch of phone booths in the background by the library, and there are no more phone booths because we all have cell phones. What is this man doing? He's going around in circles forever. He's been doomed. But also, it's the curiosity. And again, David talked about this a lot, and I think of it often as the same. What we do is the world is a theater. The whole thing is a theater set. And we're waiting for the actors to come on and do their parts. This is a great set. You have all this street furniture going on. And then this man making endless rounds and this foot up in the air. Sometimes it's just about posture and posing. And then I moved to London, as I was saying earlier. I'll go back and forth throughout this whole presentation. And this is a quintessential London photo. Pouring rain, but it's the summer. People huddled under their umbrella, double-decker buses. I was just waiting for the rain to pass, because I never carry an umbrella. So I was hiding, waiting for the rain to pass. And to kill the time, I photographed the people going by. And this is the best result. There were about 10, 15 frames. This just jumped off the contact sheet. There wasn't any problem at all making up my mind. While I was in London, iN-PUBLiC was formed in 2000, and I got an email and then a call from one David Gibson in early 2001, and became the 4th member of iN-PUBLiC. And my life changed because I really began to see what street photography was, and found a community of people who were serious about it and were very critical and knew photography, they knew art, they knew a lot of things, and we began to have a community to compare pictures. We didn't go, great shot, man, great capture. We went, you didn't really hit that. You know, I see what you're going, but you didn't do it right. Oh, that's okay. All right, you got it then, but those others don't work. That's the hard part, is finding a critical analysis. Not hostile, but critical. They are different. And that's what you really need to develop yourself. And being part of iN-PUBLiC gave me that, which I did not have up until then. And so on our site, you'll see 21 incredibly good photographers. All different, all changing our styles as we grow and change in our photography. So I began to look at other photographers. Sometimes they do very silly things. Or someone walking down in the light on Oxford Street. Here the sun, the late afternoon sun bouncing back and forth from glass windows made little spotlights on the street. And the actors, in this case a little boy holding his fingers like sunglasses up into the light, came in and did their bit. Or a woman enjoying the first warm sun of the year and just throwing her head up with just the pleasure of feeling something warm after a cold winter. Or sometimes this is where chance, or as David calls the luck, I call chance, you get something a little special. Because there I was in a cab going up Regent Street, and looking back at me was her. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, but I just looked at it later and I went, oh my God. And this is also important. If you want to improve your photography, study art. Look at paintings. Look at, the whole history of art, because that will develop your eye for composition. That's how you know what's a good photo and what isn't. You need to do more than just look at pictures. You must get out of the photography ghetto. Sometimes you're walking down a street and you look up and you go, what the heck? And you don't know. It's a puzzle. It's a mystery. Sometimes you're rushing somewhere on a cold night, you walk past a restaurant, and you go, wait, what was that? And I went back 2 frames and went on because I was late. But I almost didn't turn back because it was uncomfortable and it was cold. And I'm really glad I did. It's just a fogged up window on a cold night and ice on tables. This is something, this was taken in a restaurant. I almost took this out of the presentation, but these are things you see, and I kind of wonder about this. You'll probably never see this picture in print. So you're seeing something that will probably not be seen, at least not for a long time anyway. This is a very uncomfortable little scene where this man has gone to a restaurant to break up with a girl so she won't make a scene. And because I watched this little drama, I was having dinner, and I watched this little drama go on. And I said to my wife, I said, honey, when I nod my head, just lean this way, please. And she did, and I took this, and it's a very sad picture. It's a very beautiful picture, but it's a very sad picture. but I also like the atmosphere. I mean, this could be taken in 1922, 1932. It was taken in 2002. But it's the light. Again, what would a flash add to this picture? Someone tell me. It would wash everything out and destroy this picture. This is another one. My wife has been a great influence on me. We were going down an escalator into the subway. She said, "Richard, quick!" It was like, and the gift was the countdown. It's not just a couple kissing, it's the countdown. This is the background. Now this is another one where I'd gone through this station a few times and I'd seen this ad on the wall a couple of times. And I said, oh, photo. I wanted the photograph. So one day I spent about 25 minutes on that platform and shot at least half a roll of film trying to get a picture out of that. And there was nothing. The actors weren't there. The set was there. The actors were all in the wrong place. They hadn't learned their lines. They didn't know where to go. And it just wasn't there because I was really trying too hard. A week later, I went back to the station. I'm carrying bags. And there it was. Drop it. Put the bags down fast. 2 frames. That was it. And so, again, I did go back. And I wanted it, but I had given up. And then it came to me. This is probably my first really famous photograph. Again, I was carrying bags. I was going home on my platform, and I saw this gaggle of people over here going, "Oh, look at that! Look over there! Oh my goodness! What is that? Can you believe that?" And I went, "Don't you wish you had a camera?" And I just went into them and I went, "Excuse me. I have a camera. I need to be where you are." Because over here, it didn't work. Over here, it didn't work. You had to be in exactly the right spot to line it up. And he had no idea that he had become an angel. I was lucky. I got 4 frames on this one. And then his train came. And that was it. I got contacted by this man. A few months later, iN-PUBLiC was featured, not a few months, actually a couple of years later. This was taken in 1998, but in early 2002, I think, we had a series of pictures published in the London newspaper, one for each photographer in the course of a week. And I suddenly got an email out of the blue through the iN-PUBLiC site. Mr. Bram, I think my brother pointed this out to me, and I think I may be the person in the photograph. I just wonder where and when you took it. You know, we angels can get around. And I told my wife, who said, "Oh my God, they're going to sue us for $1 million. We're doomed." I said, "Dear, he just wants a copy. I made him into an angel. If I, had something nasty behind him, that's a different story. But I might not have shown that for just that reason." And I talked to the guy, had a real nice chat, and sent him a very nice print. I love the London Underground. The SkyTrain can give you the same opportunities. You preset your camera for 2 meters or a little less, and just watch what happens across the car from you. Again, this is about gesture and glance. If you always have a camera, these things are going to happen. It's on my lap, yeah. I generally use a 35 millimeter or 24 millimeter lens. A 50 feels like a telescope to me. I'm working very close to most of my subjects at all times. It was a warm afternoon, and it was that time of day. Now this one is about what I call the siren call of the funny costume. Without that little baby over there looking at them like, "Are you guys nuts?" This picture is just 2 guys in a silly costume. a little hungover. It's not enough. But the child looking at them makes the photograph work.
How do you keep your shutter noise down?
I use a quiet camera, and I usually only take 1 or 2 frames. I just don't care. You know,
Yes.
you can't take a lot of frames. You have to be ready, and you have to be able to gauge the distance without an autofocus, because autofocus is slow. I use a Leica. It's a manual focus camera. It's preset. All the settings are set, and I can just sort of point and shoot. Now this happened 50 yards from my front door in London. I went out into the park, and there was a little fair going on. And there she was. And I just loved it. And the little sea cadets doing a little number, and the little bouncy castle. And it was pink and blue. And it was just so pretty. And then a couple of years later, I moved to London. I went to the Museum of Modern Art, and I went up the stairs. And there's Andrew Wyeth's Christina's World, which is one of the most famous American paintings. Again, I did not have this in mind when I took this picture, but I recognized it when it happened. And that this is the gifts that we get. This is how chance favors the prepared mind. Now, toward the end of my stay in London, actually this is after I moved to New York, I began to make more complex pictures. These are not as obvious. There's a lot going on in the pictures. They're more spread out. And you can see several things going on. You have the argument between the 2 trucks, and you have what looks like an argument between 2 men who are dressed very differently. So this is a picture about confrontation. Now, it turns out, actually, because by chance I found out, that the 2 men on the right were having lunch together, although you wouldn't think so. But cities are stressful places, and especially if you're in business, especially in the last few years. And you can see it in London. You can probably see it here. Or in New York. This was taken in the middle of the financial crisis. I live right downtown near Wall Street now, so I see a lot of stressed people. This man is waiting for the axe to fall, and there it was. And this is probably within 2 weeks after the stock market crash of '08. And it was a very dark time. Even when the sun was out, it was dark. And Wall Street fell. This is like the London shot. I got caught in a summer storm on my way back home from the post office. And so, what am I going to do? I'm a photographer. I have a camera. It's full of film. Okay, I'll just take pictures of people as they come through the intersection. Now, the people in the workshop saw the whole contact sheet, but I didn't do that this time. And suddenly the guy just slipped and fell. And the camera went, boom, kind of went off by itself. But I like it a lot. And the gift in this picture is the fact that the umbrella handle made exactly the same angle as his leg. So you get, and it's not something you pick up on consciously, but it registers when you look at the picture one way or another. And that's the gift. That's one of the magic things that happens. And this is not a panoramic photo, but it just was, everything was just right. This is looking out of my living room window. And again, watching to see where all the little actors are, and what really made this work was the woman on the yellow square. Because New York has extreme weather, and we live across from office buildings, so there's a business conference in the snow. It's also a very mysterious place. You just never know what appears. another cut off head. I was laying on the ground, actually. I'd seen the doll's head, and I thought it looked really creepy. So I was photographing it, and then the kid came along on the scooter. Click, one shot. Well, actually, it's not one shot, because I had all the photographs of the doll's head, but they're really boring. I wish I'd taken the head when I left, but I didn't. Oh well. This one, I'm standing right next to these people. They're not paying any attention to me whatsoever. I mean, I'm as close to them as I am to David. But what, more than just a couple, what made this an interesting photograph to me is all the little arrows all through it. The elbows, the little arrow on the pole, the arrow on the ground, the same points made by her hand in the elbows. That sort of made that's what interested me in this photograph. The New York subways to me are not as interesting, or not as romantic, shall we say, as the London Underground. The signs aren't as good. But you can still see interesting things when you look from one car into the next, and you get ghost images and mirrors, and I just really like what happens. Sometimes it's just a torn sign that can be a little scary. Or two cyclopses in one picture. And then in 2010, I decided to really push myself into color, and I've hardly shot any black and white since then. Because I got to a certain point where everything felt stale. I was feeling old and tired and not at all inspired. I'd taken everything too many times. And I think that happens to a lot of people at a certain point. It's happened to me several times in my career. Just before I met my wife and left Kentucky to move to London, I was thinking, I've taken one too many press conferences. I've seen the same 5 people opening doors and cutting ribbons for the past 5 years, and I really think I'll go crazy if I have to photograph them ever again. And then I went off, and that changed everything. So I decided to just hit color hard and work crowds really hard in color. And when you work in color as opposed to black and white, some people say, oh, but it's so easy. I said, no, color is much harder. In black and white, you have to deal with composition and tones. But with color, the color itself is part of the photograph. As much as this is about a pretty girl with a red snow cone, it's also about other little bits of red. It's also about the play of turquoise across the frame, little bits of green and purple. So, and even her fingernails as they go up to her mouth have turquoise nail polish. That's an important thing when I'm dealing with color. Again, here's the actors in front and the chorus behind as the background for the set. A romantic moment in the middle of chaos. What else interested me here is the surprisingly even spacing of all the people across the background. They're just like little posts going across. Dominican Day Parade. With this picture, I took about 5 frames here. Some people walked in it and broke it, but only in this one did the man in the black t-shirt put his arm up to wipe the sweat off. It was a Bangkok kind of day in New York. And when he did that, it became a perfect arch from one sour old woman to another sour old woman. And then it was a photograph, not just a picture. This is just, I just love the chaos. It's like she's just completely taken aback by all of it. This is one of David's favorites.
Yes, I'm urged to make a comment on this one because I think it's great. I think the guy at the front is a rather sinister man who's going to push the button on his phone, and that man's going to shoot down the manhole. That's how I look at it. It's sinister. This is my kind of shot.
What can I say? Sometimes it's just a bare ass. Trouble ahead.
This would cut that previous one is an interesting one because it's a very easy photograph to take. It's what I touched upon, but it still works. All the work's been done by somebody else, but you just take it.
And it's the importance of the orange barrel. Because without the broken orange barrel, you'd probably see that a couple of times a day at that site, but the barrel wouldn't be there. This one, this is a very odd little moment, and I'm just leaning on a tree waiting while my wife was inside a shop and starting to take pictures in front of this unusual store in New York. And this couple came up and had this very difficult, hostile moment right in front of me. And the gift in this picture is all the little faces in the window, all looking at them, all with strange intent. The skeleton's looking away, but I don't care. But I mean, he's really giving out to her, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's a little uncomfortable, but it's in public. And they didn't see me because they were busy. I'm just standing. You can see how close I am to them. This is shot with a 35 millimeter lens, so I'm closer than I am to the front row. A broken child left over from another world. More broken people, little pieces everywhere, or big pieces as the case may be. You can take a sweet picture, it's okay. I was watching these dogs play and it was fun while I was eating a bagel. And only in this one picture, I took several frames, did everything come together where from one tail tip to the other, it made this beautiful curve across the frame. And plus it's just fun, and that's okay. And sometimes it's cute, it's sweet, I like it. And when you're photographing children and animals, we all tend to look down. Sometimes you should get down on the ground and be on their level and see it the way the dog sees it, or the child sees it, especially with children. This is another one of the early deep color pictures when I really decided to get into it. At first, I was coming out in Central Park and I saw the girl getting her picture made. She's 15 years old. In the Spanish tradition, you have the quince año, which is like a little coming out thing. So she's all done up for her quince año, 15 years. And I came in close first and just had her and the little boy. And it was nice. But you know, nice is not enough. And so I took a couple of frames, and then I backed up, and suddenly it worked. We saw Mom on the phone, and they're waiting. And plus, being a color picture, the color works. You have a little dance of red and yellow floating across the whole frame to counterbalance the mass of purple all through it. That's the hard part of working with color. Do they all balance? If there had been a bright red bus right behind it, that could ruin the picture because you just always go to what is red, because red is the color of blood. So we always look at red first. Just like in a black and white photograph, if there's a hot bright spot behind the action, it'll hurt your picture because your eye will go to the hot white spot. Whereas this one is all about yellow with a touch of blue and red. And also the gesture. She doesn't want to see, but she's still looking at me. And I just like this. They're just sweet. And they're coming together in the middle and the other two are apart. It was sort of an interesting little symmetry. And this interested me, I think, as much as anything else, is because of the appearance of the little stars. And the little scene in the background on this side. Again, if you look at art of the Renaissance, it looks boring because it's always pictures of virgins and saints in a perfect setting and very formal, or the Madonna and Child. But there's always a window behind them. And what usually for me, when I go to an art museum and I look at these pictures, I'll look at the craftsmanship and the wonderful painterly qualities of the Madonna and Child, but to me what's interesting is the window, because that's where the painter has let himself go to do something that maybe the client didn't pay him for. And this has all this interesting little stuff going on in the background as well. So that kind of interested me there with this picture. And it's a dad with ice cream. But I love the dark-haired girls and the blonde dolls. How we train girls in our societies. And this I just thought was not only because they're all in white, which was a big part of it. There's the color, which is a non-color. But it's a sweet moment. He's tying her shoes for her. And that's just really sweet. You don't see that very often. That's special. This was just very strange and surreal. What the sign says is psychic reader, tarot cards and advisors. And here he is going by with his orchids in his hand, like some strange vision from another world. I don't know if you need to
ป้ายนี่
translate
เขียน
that.
ว่าเป็นอ่านดูดวงนะครับเป็นนักดูดวงโดยไพ่ทาโร่
Yeah, it was just, and this time the red worked, because the red pulls me right into it, and the one-legged girl going up the rail. Or, again, this is something we all like to play with. How many arms, how many legs, how many heads? It just doesn't quite work. Something's missing. This one's about red, and a businessman who's in a big hurry, and looks like he's going to fall over any moment. This I just took about 6 weeks ago, right around the corner from my house. And it's the shadows, it's the red handkerchief, and something about his purpose, the different shapes of the shadows versus the shape of his actual head. And me. The streets are generous. They give you these things all the time if you just are awake and looking. This was at the Occupy Wall Street demonstrations, which were right outside my window. I'm not going to go into the documentation, but I just love this photograph. Now, someone asked, so what pictures did you take in Bangkok? Well, I'll show you some, because I don't always sit on my pictures long enough. This is my second trip here to Bangkok. I was here once briefly in 2000. And I just got around. I was a tourist. I am a tourist. I don't mind taking tourist pictures because that's what I am. I don't live here. You live here. But I think I got a couple of interesting pictures. On the river bus.
You converted it to black and white?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, right.
No,
okay.
this was, of course, shot 13 years ago on film. I didn't even have a digital camera of any quality till 2004. And I was forced into that.
You were forced into digital also?
Yeah, my client said, oh, we don't need film and processing. Can't you do JPEGs? I went, oh, sure. And went out and bought a camera and learned how to use it very quickly. Same thing happened to you?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And this is another one of those little puzzle pictures that I really like. This was behind the Grand Palace. I was walking around somewhere. But this is 2 days ago. And I just couldn't help it. Sometimes it's just one of these things where you just have to take the picture. Of course, because you can see what caught my eye. The color of her skirt is just a little too close to skin. And it was like, oh my goodness, I just couldn't help it. But the other thing that interested me, and what helps make this picture, is as she's reaching, I love the foot as well. And I just thought that was a nice little delicate thing. So there is something interesting all the way across the frame in the 3 parts of the picture. He's not, yeah. Exactly. He's not actually hiding his face from me. He's doing what I'm about to do. Because when you wear glasses, they slip down your nose. But it caught it just right. Again, extremely close. High heels, I guess, must be very uncomfortable. I just never worn them. But again, this has a little extra something that I did not. I'd like to tell you that I saw this and very carefully composed it, but I didn't. I didn't see the toes or the leg on the other side, because what I was looking at was the shoes. But they were there, and I'm really glad, because it helps take care of what otherwise would be a lot of bare space. This was early in the morning at the train station. I just really like this little moment. This is not a great photo. It's not going to be one of my immortal photographs, but it's a nice little moment between the young man and the young woman, and I love the way he's reflected in the train. I took some very close up of the two of them. They didn't pay any attention to me because they were talking to each other. But they're not as interesting as the one with the strong receding lines and the person walking toward us. But you don't really see, you notice he's there, but you don't focus on him because he's in dark clothing. So it gives it depth without taking away from the main subject of the picture. And sometimes it's a man loading body parts. Oh, excuse me, they're mannequins. And I just love the light and the glow on the train and on the plastic and all of it. I just like it a lot. And so, on that note, we thank you very much for coming. It's been a great pleasure, and right now, before we open up to questions, I want to thank everyone here at TCDC for all they have done for both of us. It's an incredible organization. I talk about libraries. One of the best libraries in the universe is right there. If you don't use it, you're crazy. And they have a great photo library, and they have a fabulous art library, and history, and politics, and all of it. Use all of it. If you look at music and theater and history and things that aren't about photography, this will all help make you a better photographer. So, and thank you very much for your help,
Thank you.
And,
Thank you both.
let's take some questions, if we have any.
I'm just going to do a quick recap on what you just said นะRichard มีมุมมองเกี่ยวกับการถ่ายภาพที่น่าสนใจมากนะฮะสำหรับผมเพราะเขามองโลกที่เขาถ่ายภาพเนี่ยเหมือนเป็นเวทีอะไรบางอย่างเหมือนเวทีของละครแล้วเขาก็มองคนที่เขาถ่ายเนี่ยเป็นนักแสดงนะฮะเขาเรียกเป็นอย่างนั้นเลยจุดเปลี่ยนของริชาร์ดเนี่ยครั้งใหญ่เนี่ยคือตอนที่เขาไปร่วมกับ iN-PUBLiC เมื่อปี when did you join the iN-PUBLiC 2000 2001 ฮะปี 2001 ที่เขาได้เข้ามาอยู่ในกลุ่ม iN-PUBLiC แล้วก็ได้เจอกลุ่มคนที่รักการถ่ายภาพสตรีทโฟโต้อย่างที่เขารักนะฮะแล้วเขาก็มีการคุกคลีแล้วก็มีการดีเบตแล้วก็พูดถึงเสวนาเกี่ยวกับงานภาพถ่ายในแขนงนี้ซึ่งเป็นสิ่งที่ช่วยพัฒนาฝีมือแล้วก็มุมมองของเขาให้น่าสนใจขึ้นนะฮะแล้วก็เขาก็ใช้เวลาหลายปีในการถ่ายภาพขาวดำแล้วก็สุดท้ายแล้วก็มาเริ่มถ่ายภาพสีซึ่งเขาคิดว่าภาพสีเนี่ยยากกว่าที่จะถ่ายกว่างานขาวดำเพราะว่าภาพขาวดำเนี่ยมีแค่เรื่องเชฟแล้วก็โทนนะฮะแต่พอมาเป็นรูปสีเนี่ยความสมดุลของภาพเนี่ยมันมีมากขึ้นที่เราจะต้องคิดคำนวณนะฮะแล้วก็อีกเรื่องหนึ่งที่เขาแนะนำนะฮะก็คือให้เรามองเลยงานภาพถ่ายไปแล้วก็ให้ความสำคัญแล้วก็ความสนใจกับงานศิลปะแขนงอื่นนะฮะอย่างเช่นงานจิตรกรรมหรือว่าประติมากรรมทั้งหลายแหล่เนี่ยจะช่วยในการพัฒนามุมมองของเราแล้วก็เขาแนะนำให้เราใช้ห้องสมุดที่ TCDC นี้ให้มากๆด้วยครับเรามีหนังสือโฟโต้มากกว่า200เล่มนะฮะที่นี่ครับ Okay so thank you bothเดี๋ยวเชิญร่วมงานกันต่อข้างนอกนะฮะเปิดนิทรรศการiN-PUBLiC ตอน 6 โมงครับขอบคุณครับ